Let's be real. If nobody's watching, it's way too easy to slack off. We've all said, I'll start on Monday. I'll start in the morning. I'll start next week. And then suddenly it's Thursday and we're still getting ready to start. The truth is, if you don't hold yourself accountable, no one else will. Can you do this? Absolutely. But you got to do it. So here's how to stop letting yourself off the hook and start keeping the promises you make to yourself.
Got it. Oh, Bill. Last episode we talked about accountability because we were in that episode we were talking about not making excuses or not letting excuses keep us from accomplishing things. And one of those things that we said you need to do is you need to hold yourself accountable. And I said, hey, let's do an episode on it. And hey, look, we're doing an episode on it.
We're being accountable for what we're doing.
But most people struggle with that, though, right? I mean, a lot of people struggle with the idea of setting goals, and then they struggle with the follow through.
Wait a sec. What was your New Year's resolution?
I didn't have one.
Exactly. But how many people set New Year's resolutions?
Most.
Too many people. Too many people. And there's a lot of stuff out there about, hey, you don't set resolutions, you set annual goals. Makes it more solid. The first 3 weeks of January are always the local gyms are always stacked full of people, and then come the 1st of February, half of them are not even there anymore. They're just not there. You know, studies show that only 8% of people keep New Year's resolutions, because New Year's resolutions are just something you say because it's a tradition, and they're not really worth that much. And especially if nobody's checking up on you.
Right. Well, you know, I mean, everybody's motivated at the beginning, right? Like, oh, this is a great goal. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to read more. I'm going to, whatever that is, you know, I'm going to, spend more time with family, friends, whatever that is. I mean, and the motivation is there. I don't doubt that the motivation's there. I have it. I'm sure you've had it. Everybody feels that motivation. The problem is that over time, motivation, it's kind of like your stamina, right? And then like over time, it fades away. And then what happens is we are reliant on our discipline. And I know I'm guilty of this, and I think a lot of people are, is like discipline's hard.
You have to be committed to it. Whatever it is you're doing, you have to first commit yourself to do it before you actually start doing it. It's like a Karate Kid. You know, the Karate Kid movie, the very first one, where he's just learning how, and he's showing up for his very first day, and he's told he's got to wash the cars and wax the cars and everything like that. But just before that, he says,
and your son must talk. Walk on the road. Walk right side, safe. Walk left side, safe. Walk middle. Sooner or later, get the squish, just like grape. Here, karate, same thing. Either you karate do yes, or karate do no. You karate do guess so, just like grape.
You have to be committed to not doing it, or you have to be committed to doing it. And here's the thing. You have to be committed to doing it to where you're doing it when nobody else is watching.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? Because, you know, when there's nobody there making me do it or ensuring that I do it or whatever the reason is, that's when it gets really, really hard. So learning how to hold yourself accountable, though, is probably one of the most powerful skills that you can really develop if you're actually wanting to get things done. Kobe Bryant, I mean, the late, great Kobe Bryant was famous for holding himself at this like crazy level of accountability. I mean, there's stories of how early he would show up to practice. And there's one story specifically that says that he showed up at 4 a.m. by himself. And the only reason why is because he didn't like the performance the day before. No coach told him he had to do it. No cameras were watching him. He simply did it because he did not want to let himself down. And you know what? And I think that's key, right? It's like that's kind of the difference between those that are really good at things and those who become great at things. And it's the idea of what standard do you hold yourself to?
When when
Are
nobody's
you going to
watching.
hold yourself to that standard regardless of who's around, who's not around, who's told you to do it, who's not told you to do it? Like, is your standard higher than the standard that everybody else holds you to?
Now, somebody said, and of course I forget who, but somebody said your character, your true character, is what you do when nobody else is watching.
Right. Yeah. I think it ties right in with that discipline and that standard and all those types of things as well.
Yes. So absolutely, you can do it. So why do we struggle with accountability, which is kind of interesting because we're into like the third week or the second week of send me an email and tell me the 5 things you did this week that were productive.
Yeah. And, regardless of whatever you think of, the current political system, the fact of just having somebody say, hey, can you share with me what you've done last week is just a way, like, people, like, you should thank that person who asks you, can you tell me what you did last week? Because that's going to hold you accountable, which is going to make you more productive. And I know some people are like, well, I get my job done or I do the thing or whatever. I don't like being asked. I feel like I'm being, under a microscope. Fact is, like, we all need somebody to check up on us from time to time. Like, because it's too easy for us to make our excuses. And we talked about that in last episode is like, the excuses, oh, I'm too busy, or I had, other priorities, or I didn't have enough information, or whatever it is. And we tell ourselves that. And then what happens is we allow that excuse to just let ourselves off the hook.
Right.
So there's like real power in having that self-discipline. And that's truly how successful people become successful, is that it's the discipline of doing something every single day and being consistent. I've always said in a lot of the classes and things I teach is like, if you're consistent and patient, you're always going to get the result that you want. Now, we don't know when sometimes, which is sometimes where that discipline and the motivation and stuff starts to wane because it seems like it's taking too long. But if you're consistent doing the right things and then you give it enough time, you will get a result.
Right. Right. So how do we set realistic but challenging goals? Like years ago, I had a goal. I'm talking many, many, many years ago. I had a goal of I wanted to be able to dunk a basketball. I'm 5'9". And I understand there's people that are shorter than me that can dunk a basketball, but guess what? I wasn't really committed to it. I wasn't committed to the leg strength, to the practice, whatever it took. I couldn't dunk a basketball in an 8-foot rim if I even tried, and that was back then.
Let's just throw this out there, Bill. You ain't no Kobe.
I ain't never gonna be, no matter how disciplined I am. So that's an unrealistic goal. So what's the idea? How do we set realistic but challenging goals? I mean,
I think
if it's too big, if it's too big, you quit.
Yeah.
And if it's too small, you don't care.
Yeah, there's no end game to it. There's nothing that matters a lot.
Meh.
So I think in order to do that, then you have to be able to like create accountability systems. So like, how do you track your progress? I mean, I think we've mentioned this before, and it's pretty well known. But Jerry Seinfeld had a big wall chart of a calendar, and his goal was to write a joke every single day. Didn't matter how good the joke was, but literally write a joke every day, and then he just put an X on the calendar. And that's how he tracked his progress. The cool thing was, I remember reading something about Jerry, and he said over time that he started to look at like all these little X's across the board, and it started to look like a chain, like a chain link fence type thing. And it got to the point where it wasn't even so much about writing the joke. It was more about don't break the chain.
Don't break the chain.
I think you have to have some way to track that progress to show yourself like, I've gone this far. Why would I stop now? And if we don't track it, we don't see how far we've come. So it just makes it easier to quit. So, and along with that, you got to have some deadlines, and then use some sort of a reward. Like, hey, for Jerry, and I don't know if this is true about Jerry, but if you're writing a joke every day, say, once I hit 30 days in a row, I'm going to reward myself with going on a trip, or I'm going to buy something that I've been wanting to buy, or something like that. So, put in some reward systems, and then be disciplined enough to say, you know what, I'm not going to reward myself with that until I actually hit the mark.
Now, I actually created a system not that long ago. called the 70-Day Dare. It comes off of a study from a French researcher who researched thousands of people and how long they could create a habit. And the idea of the study was how long does it take for a regular person just to create a habit, a daily habit, a habit of just doing something every day? And it varied from we've heard, if you do something for 3 weeks in a row, then it's a habit. Well, that's not necessarily true, according to this study. Some people took as many as 250 some days to actually have it kick in and create a habit. For other people, it took them only 2 or 3 weeks. But the average over these thousands of people, the average was 66 days. And so I created something called the 70-Day Dare. I said, well, 66, I don't have anything that's really catchy, so I made the 70-Day Dare. It sounds a little catchier. Call it marketing or whatever you want, but the 70-Day Dare. And I created it, and it's a single sheet of paper that I tack up on my wall. And when I walk into my office today, it's a thing that I check off every day. And when my wife sees it, I've missed a day. Well, then there's a thing. Because she actually cares. She actually cares about some of the things that I do, and so if I'm doing something she actually cares about, she really wants me to stick to an accountability thing. But creating just a check system, it's an accountability system. Check it off every day. Don't break the chain. Keep going. And I actually have a whole system. If you're interested, make a comment. Happy to get that to you. No problem. And it's
a great system.
And it's the idea of you've done it too, Jamie. I think I've had you do it a few times. There's the idea of the nobody watching rule. If you only show up when people are watching, you may be good, but you'll never be great. Along with Kobe Bryant. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that ties in with Kobe Bryant showing up at 4 o'clock in the morning when nobody else was there, no coach told him he had to do it, and there was no cameras. If he was just wanting to do it because he wanted to be seen, to show, hey, I need people to see how hard I work. So at that point, I have to wait till somebody's there to actually see me working, versus I don't care if people know how hard I work. How hard I work will come out in my game, or will come out in my product, or will come out in my results. That's how they'll know that I work hard.
Right. So think about the last time you told yourself you'd do something and you didn't. Now imagine if a friend broke that promise to you. You'd be pissed, right? But when we break promises to ourselves, we just shrug it off. Why do we hold other people to a higher standard than we hold ourselves? It's time to start treating your own commitments like they actually matter.
Yeah.
And they do. So, a few takeaways. Stuff for you to do now. Ready? Do it now.
I think one of the first ones that you need to do is just set one very clear, measurable goal. So instead of saying I'm gonna work out more.
What?
You giving me a signal?
No, I was pointing to the thing over here that says set one clear, measurable goal. Jamie and I have different views on our screen of what we see, and I'm at an advantage. And so one of my clear, measurable goals is to throw them off every now and then.
And nicely done. And that was one clear, very measurable goal. You threw me off, so mission accomplished. So setting one clear, measurable goal, instead of saying I want to work out more, say I'm going to work out 3 times a week at 8 a.m. for at least 20 minutes. Now that's specific. It also is very measurable. Say I'm going to work out more. Okay, well, I didn't work out at all. So I worked out once. That's more.
That's more. So
second thing is make it public. Tell people about it. Tell a friend, tell your spouse. Like you said, you've got your 70-day dare up on the wall, and when Lisa comes in and she sees that you missed a day, she calls you out on it. So tell people about, hey, these are things I am working on, and I want you to know about it, and I want you to check in with me and ask me if I've done it. And don't accept an excuse from me.
And that goes right along. That goes right along with the third thing. So track your progress.
Yep.
Like that check mark every day, every day, every day, every day.
You know, the Seinfeld calendar, whatever.
Yeah, just check your progress. Oh, sorry, track your progress. If I could read, I'd be dangerous because I'd be never mind. Fourth thing, there's consequences for quitting. How are you going to chastise yourself for quitting?
I've never done this, but I know of people who have done it. And when they set a goal, they actually, so this person that you're telling, like, here's what I'm planning on doing. I need you to check in and call me out on it and don't accept an excuse. And if I quit, and then you got to define quitting. That means I've not done it I stopped for 3 days in a row or 5 days in a row or 2 weeks in a row, whatever that is, that I'm going to give you $500.
Ooh.
Okay,
I'm not
skin in the game now.
Skin in the game. And imagine if you quit and you didn't follow through on that, and you didn't give your friend $500. You've just lost a friend.
Yeah,
and if you haven't lost a friend, you've lost serious credibility with your friend, because they won't believe anything you say after that.
Yeah, you made the comment earlier about, imagine, we let ourselves, we don't do something and we just, shrug it off like it's no big deal. But if a friend broke that promise to us, we'd be really upset. Well, just kind of flip that coin back around and say, well, you've made a promise to your friend, and if you don't follow through with it, how upset are they going to be at you?
Yeah. So
then the last one is, find some way to reward yourself for the consistency. So we talked about that. Like, at the end of, if I've done it consistently for 30 days or 2 weeks or whatever that time frame is, find something to reward yourself. Celebrate the small wins. That's kind of where you start to keep that motivation up, because motivation is going to it is going to fade off over time. So the motivation is like, okay, my motivation is to get to this point, so I get this little reward, and then you set another reward for another time down the road. So how do we make this stick for people?
How do we make it stick for people? Well, just make it official. Set the goal, write it down, share it with somebody. Just do it. Can you do it? Absolutely. But you got to do it. So
you got to do it.
And we'll, if you need someone like us to make you accountable for it, you're making it public by making a comment. Let's just put it right there. You're making it public by making a comment. And wow, what a great time to drop that in there. Like, comment, share. Yeah, just go ahead.
And let us know how it's going, because if you don't hold yourself accountable, no one else will. And if you don't hold yourself accountable, you're always going to find that excuse.
Yeah. And we've already talked about excuses. So stop it. Just stop it. Stop making excuses. So, for today, that's Jamie French.
Hey, that right there, that's Bill McConnell.
Hey, I got my arrow going the right way, like for the first time forever. So, anyway, have a great week. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. We appreciate it. And if you have an idea about topics that we can do that's more relevant to you, we'd be glad to research and put something together specifically for you. That'd be so cool.
Got it.